Welcome into another edition of Spits and Suds. So glad you can join us today. I'm Gavin Spittle, and we are happy to be joined. He's off his celebrity tour, two-time Stanley Cup champion, two-time NCAA champion, 17 years in the NHL, one of your favorite all-time Dallas Stars. It's Craig Ludwig. How are you, friend?
I'm good. I didn't catch what tour am I off of?
Celebrity. So
what celebrity tour would I be on?
I mean, I'm just saying, like, you know,
visiting the homeless people down in Austin? Or what are you talking about?
No. We were corresponding, and I was asking you about some podcast scheduling, and you just wrote back working, and it's a picture of Craig Ludwig with Dirk Nowitzki and Nancy Lieberman and John Radigan. And, you know, I mean, I'm like, well, celeb man. I love it.
Yeah, you know, we're out at the airport. We have a new for the Suds with Luds, and actually all the guys with Mensch and Harper, Nate Newton. It's a group called Playmakers, and they actually, you know, deal in a bunch of bars and restaurants and things like that. And so, and they're kind of responsible. Marty Turco's got a place inside of Love Field, and Dirk has got a place inside of DFW, and so it's part of our thing where we're going to go around and do some podcasts from those places. And they also own some places called. You ever heard of the Bond Shop by any chance?
No.
Yeah, it's like a Vietnamese restaurant kind of thing.
Oh,
it's almost
okay.
like, you know what it is?
Yeah, I do. I love Vietnamese. I love Vietnamese like food.
No. I'm not talking about the women you date. I was talking about the food.
That'll be fine. We're recording, sir.
I know that. That's why I put it in there. And so anyways, we're gonna hit a bunch of those restaurants and do, you know, like live podcasts and things like that from those. And so we did one the other day. It was kind of over by Valley Ranch where one of our Star Centers is, and it's nice. Got a nice little bar in the middle of it, you know. So nice. So anyways, that's what we were doing with Dirk came out and he had a thing there at the airport, and he was, you know, obviously swarmed and had a lot of places to go inside the airport and in that particular terminal and stuff like that. So, but he's got a great spot there. He's got a good beer too. I was surprised. I mean, I'm not really into the so-called craft beers and all that kind of stuff, but he's got a good beer. Radigan and I think put a dent in the freezer there, in the fridge.
Yeah. You always do, man. You always come to play. Love it.
I do my part.
So how was the eclipse for Craig Ludwig yesterday?
All right. You know, I get it. It's a big event and stuff like that, but I wasn't digging the hype and all that. Yep. And so, you know, it was nice to make it through one of them, I guess. My plans are I'm going to make it through the next one too, but you know, somebody else has got something to do with that. So, what is it, 40 years from now?
Yeah, you will see some partials, but this was.
We'll probably still be doing podcasts. We'll be hovering around in some spaceship doing podcasts. You know what? I you know, it's something. You know, I had heard that animals and your pets are all going to freak out because they're wondering what the hell's going on, and mine basically slept through the whole thing, so it really didn't do anything. But you know, for the moment, it was cool. Saw some really nice pictures and stuff like that. You know, when you get some close-ups, I was trying to, you know, do one of those time lapse. I'm not the best on the phone, you know, as far as record. And well, there's some things I'm good at. I can send different text messages and things like that.
Yeah, let's dive into that. So our stations were doing.
Oh, I don't want to dive into it. You can dive into it if you'd like.
Yeah, that'll be clue number one. So, my news station.
Just listen before you get started.
Yes.
I can't wait to hear you try to describe what this is, because I have no idea. And I'm going to just tell all of your listeners, like, after he gets done discussing and telling this tale, you all have to request that
No.
he sends you the video.
No.
There you go. Now go ahead.
No, because then I'll be texting you and say, Greg, the podcast is no longer on Odyssey. I need to come up with
That's what I was hoping
forum.
for.
I bet. I bet. So, okay, so News Radio 1080 KRLD is doing full eclipse coverage. The boys at 105.3 The Fan are talking about the eclipse. So I get a text from Craig, and I'm like, oh, how cool. Craig has taken an eclipse video. Let me check it out. So I'm watching this light, and all of a sudden, I actually said to myself, oh, that's too bad. Craig probably doesn't realize that his hand was in front of the lens. That wasn't a hand. And that's all I'm going to say, Craig.
Well, that's it? That's all you're going to give him?
I don't know what to say, my man. It was just...
Well, you brought it up. This is your lead in. This is your segment right now. So.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Well, folks, all I can say is when you're listening to this, you need to ask him for more details.
Spits and Suds imagination. Just picture what Luds would send to me, and you would be absolutely correct.
Okay, on to hockey.
Okay, so really exciting time.
Speaking about a team that's playing with some balls.
Well done. So, wow, what a victory the other night. It was awesome. And what I loved about it most, Craig, and granted, they were a little bit undermanned, a couple of their regular players, specifically one that has over 100 points, Rantanen, out of the lineup, and Woods would provide some physicality. But I just felt as though it was so different than the matchups before, and that's what I absolutely loved about it. Obviously, I wanted them to win, Craig, but I was like, at this point, I'm like, I just want a strong showing against Colorado because the just too many things happened in the matchups before where I'm like, I want to avoid Colorado, and now I still want to avoid them, Craig, but I'm like, you know what? They can play with Colorado.
Here's what I thought. If you were wondering, and I don't think anybody really is, and there's a lot of things that go into this description, but to me that's a character win. That's a statement game, and regardless of who's in or out of the lineup, they had to play the day before. It was a game that they could have beat Chicago, right? They played well enough to beat the Blackhawks, but they didn't.
Correct.
They go into a building, into an environment that they've got a great home record there. Yeah, they're missing one of their top players, but from start to finish, they made a statement. And when I'm watching it, and then the next morning when I wake up, I'm like, they're driven. They're driven to say, we're not just going to coast into the playoffs. We're going to do the right things the next 4 or 5 games or what's ever left in the regular season. And there's something really big at stake for this group. And to me, it's a testament to the belief that's in that locker room, which is all that matters. Nothing outside that room, fans, NHL media, the guys that say that they're the best and know everything about teams and things like that. It's about those 22, 23 guys that will be starting together in game 83. And they've had an identity. We've talked about their identity all year long. They haven't veered away from it. They've got, a couple got Dodanov's not in the lineup, Hakanpää's not, regardless of whether you think they should be in or not, they're just motoring along. And to me, that was a game. The most important, obviously, is those guys, but it's a statement out there that when you listen to people talking about the league and the teams and the odds of who's going to win, let go ahead and say that Dallas is flying under the radar a bit because they're picking some other teams to be the teams that will, dance around the ice at the end of this whole thing with that silver trophy. But this team believes in themselves, and that is what the thing that came out of it for me. We know they're a deep team, and you even hear Pete DeBoer. Very rarely do you hear that's your identity. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we're a team that scores. And I think that their mentality as this year has gone along is like, okay, yeah, we gave up a goal. Okay, yeah, we're down 2 goals going into third. Yeah, okay, well, we just gave up we'll come back. And so they believe in it. And I think all of those things are so important at this time of the year. And there's one other thing that I think is really important right now, that they're in the race for the President's Trophy. And that keeps you coming to the rink, not looking forward, not looking to game 83, because it's not going to be easy to get that, because the Rangers are they're in the very same boat. They're rolling along. They're a really good team. Carolina's a good team. We know that, but you, at the end of the day, there are thoughts and there are talks in that locker room right now that we get into that last round, it sure would be nice to have home ice all the way through the playoffs.
Sure would.
And I was thinking about it the other day, in 99, when we were going into Buffalo for game 6, having the ability to close it out, there is a different psyche between, I can't speak for those guys, because all those guys wanted to do was this is do or die for us. We have to win this game. We have to force a game 7. So there is more pressure on them, because we knew, we didn't talk about it. Our conversation is and you never want to get to game 7 if you don't have to, regardless if you're you're the favorite or not. You don't want to get there, because funky things happen in game 7s. and I think that we went in there in the back of our minds knowing, we could play a great game tonight, but if we don't, for some reason, finish this, we know we do have one extra life. We got another bullet in the gun. And I think that's important. Anybody will think it's important, but I'm just saying, like, it's the way you approach games. And I just think that it's nice that they have this little race with a couple teams to finish first overall, because it keeps you engaged in every single game. And I don't think as a coaching staff, they're going to feel that there's going to be any slip, because we got something on the line here, guys. We're not just coasting into the playoffs. There's still something here that could really pay off for us in a month and a half from now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I was thinking the other day, Luds, like, all the players are obviously important. I mean, when you go 8 deep as far as 20-plus goals, that's amazing. Defensively, goalie, everyone's important. However, I was thinking, like, okay, the emergence of Wyatt Johnston might be the best player right now. It's absolutely amazing. And I wanted to ask you, was there someone that entered your room during your career where you're like, serious, that guy's 20?
Yeah. His name was Patrick Roy.
All right, there you go. Good example.
Like, who's this cocky kid? Who's this scrawny little French fry looking goalie? So, yeah, I mean, and see that, but with Wyatt, I don't sit here and go, oh, wow, did he step into the light? I think he's always been there.
Yeah.
He's just a consistent,
right.
He's always been dangerous. He's always been, not as a highlight reel.
That's great point.
McKinnon. He's not, you know what I mean? But every time he's on the ice and he gets across center ice, if you're not already kind of edging up into your chair, there's something you're not watching enough, because and again, it's not just Wyatt. There's look at who's drug who along here. Did Jamie bring along Wyatt, or did Wyatt bring along Jamie? Or is it just because if does it not look like Jamie Benn is playing like he's in his mid to late 20s right now?
No, it actually, I mean, I knew it was a factor, but I will stand on the pulpit right now, and further really deepened my belief to say, like, how much a line mate or line mates can matter, because we can go to the other line, Craig, with Mason Marchment. And Seguin was hurt, but Mason Marchment last year, we're like, oh my God, that's going to be a tough signing. We're no longer saying that, because Matt Duchene has just reinvigorated that, and now a healthy Tyler Seguin and the chemistry that they have, and now it's Wyatt Johnston and Ben, and Dodonov clearly was there at times, but now you add the Waterbug and Stankoven, it's like, wow. Like, you know, in Chicago on Saturday, they tried to switch up lines because of Maverick Bourque, and then in the third period, DeBoer went back because he wanted to win the game. And it's just, I watch him, and I think you brought up an excellent point, Craig, one of many, of course, but you use the term elite and highlight reels. And I think that's where sometimes we put that elite category. And you're right, Wyatt Johnston isn't going to show up on Sports Center like Austin Matthews or McKinnon or the speed of McDavid. But, you know, someone brought up Patrice Bergeron on the broadcast the other day, and I'm like, wow, that is an interesting and, for Stars fans, an exciting comparison. I mean, I'll give you an example. Late in the game when they scored their last goal besides the empty net goal, Wyatt Johnston's taken that face-off. Wyatt Johnston won that face-off and drew it back and ended up scoring the goal, because I stopped and I looked back and I was like, all right, who took that face-off? That was a really important face-off. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting that late in the game that Wyatt Johnston has taken that face-off.
Yeah, just go through the lines and look at how they have their lines put together. And the first thing you talk about Jamie. You've got Jamie Benn on that line over 1,000 games. Matt Duchene on the next line over 1,000 games. Joe Pavelski on that line. I don't even know if you could call it the top line, but we know that they're a good line, over 1,000 games, playing with a couple young players. Matt Duchene playing with a young player, and then you've also got Tyler Seguin over there. That's got another 1,000 games. Or I don't know, is Tyler at 1,000 games?
I'm
not sure.
I think he's close.
Yeah, he's had some injuries, probably not. But I mean, when you look and having a veteran on every one of those lines, even when you look at Craig Smith, that those other three lines, and they're not dragging them along, but the fourth, if you want to call them the fourth line, who's ever on that line, they're playing like they think they can do the same thing the other three lines can do. It's a whole forward group, regardless of who's in and out of the lineup, are playing that way. And then when you talk about faceoffs, you've got it put together where you've got somebody on each line. You've got Hintz and you've got Pavelski, lefty-righty. You've got Duchene, you've got Seguin, lefty-righty. You got Jamie, you have Wyatt, lefty-righty. Now, so you can take faceoffs. You can have guys that are good on their faceoffs. I don't know their numbers offhand, but I guarantee those guys are somewhere close to the 50%, if not above.
50. You're right. I looked it up the other day.
Okay. So now, whatever side of the ice you're on, we got a guy. You know, if it's on the left side, Jamie Benn's your guy. If it's on the right side, Wyatt is. Or you know what I mean? So, and again, all this being said, you got to get it up for general manager. Look at what Jim's done as far as, being the guy that, again, whatever somebody said about, if I'm going to cook, I want to be able to buy the groceries. I mean, look at the groceries he's put together for Pete DeBoer, and not that the head coach doesn't have some say in this, but this is a lineup that I think that they can play. They play with the puck. So the best way to defend is to have the puck, and you may not have to be the best defensive team in your own zone when you have the puck all the time. And you've got guys that are, puck control guys, and they just do the right things at the right time. I mean, when you're coming through the neutral zone, if it's not a clear-cut 3-on-2, the puck will go in. But for the most part, they want to keep the puck. They're making the right decisions.
You're absolutely right. Moving to Chris Tanev, thought he played terrific once again. Just the calmness, the ability for the Stars to get out of the zone so quickly, specifically in the first two periods, I think was one of the impressive highlights of this game in Colorado. But I was fascinated, Craig, because I just feel like because when I was talking around trade deadline, I'm like, I think, 2 pieces on that decor would be really good. But it's amazing how Tanev, I feel, has improved all 6.
Yeah. I mean, well, what he's done is he's improved the top 4, like for sure. You're right. And then and I think by when you say improving it, it's like putting people in the right spots, in the right minutes against, at least when you're at home, against the matchups that you want to get. But there's still players when you play on the road that can handle when the opposing coach is getting out their line against, a certain pair. They can still, they can hang in there. They can stay there until the time is there, because I won't put this top 6 up against, let's say, Vegas's top 6. Like for me, I just find it to be so important to have, a good, strong 6 in the playoffs. I think that's where it comes. And again, for me, it's always about playing the other team every other night for 2 weeks, and what other teams and your team is going to find is you start to find the characteristics and the tendencies of the opposing players, and you do all your work, and they got they know everything, right? They know everything about every player, but there's going to be things that will pop up in the playoffs that their coaching staff and guys that are, underground that are watching everything, they're going to say, look, let's put it in on this guy, put it in on his right side. He's not very good getting pucks out on his right side, or he loses the battle in front of the net. And I only bring that up because I have the one goal the other night with Nils in front of the net. Yeah. Right. And so, and that's where I know that you're not a Hakanpää fan. Now you've gone from Radek to Hakanpää. So I don't know who's going to be next week, but is Hakanpää even going to be back in lineup? I have no idea.
Supposedly he's coming back, and DeBoer has stated several times he loves him in the lineup.
Yeah, I do too. I do too, and I would love him in the lineup in playoffs. And it's easy to say right now because now, and this is on record, right? So when something happens in the playoffs, I go, well, Ludwig, you like him in the playoffs, and but I just think from a penalty kill standpoint, from a size standpoint, he just kind of plays within himself, and I think he can get into the battles when you play against it. Let's say it's Marchessault. And you can be a little more abusive on that guy if you're going to play Vegas, or you can be a little bit more, and I'm talking in front of the net. You're not going to make life easy and comfortable in front of the net for the right guys, McKinnon's and Rantanen when he's in the lineup, and, all depending on who they play. And, you got Forsberg in Nashville. I mean, those kind of guys that you may play at some point, there's ways to push them out of the lineup. There's ways to push them out of certain areas in front of their goaltender where they like to be. And now they might start playing on the perimeter a little bit more because, man, my top of my foot's getting sore. My ankle's getting sore. My back is getting sore because you're getting away with little things. You're chopping them in the right areas. You're sticking when they want to back into you in front of the net. You find that little space above their pants and their shoulder pads where you're going to try to get, on the back of their ribs, and you're going to, you know what I mean? The little sneaky things. Sure. You're going to find the cuff of their gloves. They're wearing short gloves. His wrist is exposed. I can see skin there. So you're going to get those little areas of the ice.
Interesting.
Or the player.
For the record, Tyler Seguin, 966 games. For those that don't know, games played only counts in the regular season. I guess that's to even everyone out. If it was playoffs games were included, both Craig Ludwig and Tyler Seguin would have a lot more games on their resume. Tyler Seguin would be over 1,000. He will go over 1,000 next year. For those wondering, Craig Ludwig, 1,256.
Let me say something about Tyler Seguin. I thought about Segi the other day. And so what year... I don't know if it was Tyler's rookie year or it was his second year. I want to say it was his rookie year when he won the cup in Boston. And I'm sure you can Google that right now. But I was thinking about Tyler and how good Tyler Seguin, we were talking about in the locker room, as a matter of fact, last night after our game. And I had said, they were talking about Tyler. I said, well, there's two things for me for Tyler. And I said, the main thing, the biggest thing is Tyler's healthy. I mean, we all saw the video and stuff like that, the things that Tyler had to go through with, his rehab, and it was a long road back. And Tyler, you could watch Tyler over the last couple of years playing. And I knew that there were injuries that he was playing through. You're not, no player is the same way when you have, whether it's an ankle, a back, a knee, whatever it is, you're not at your best. So first off, Tyler's healthy. And the other comparison I think about is Tyler's hungry. And when you get the taste of winning a cup, everybody wants to win another one. That's just the way it is in any sport. But when you get the taste of a cup, and I can speak of this because I went 13 years, I believe it was, in between. And you don't think it's going to happen, first off, because the road gets longer and
yes.
trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel, it's getting smaller and smaller. But then you're like, we got a good team. When Nui was here and Zuby was here, and you go down the list, Sean Chambers and Beaker and Dave Reed, I'm like, we got a good team and might just have a chance. And that becomes infectious through the rest of the group. And the rest of the group are eventually they're gonna know about it, not whether they're gonna, this dude won this cup a long time ago, and it's been X amount of years. So I'm guessing by now. How many years has it been since Tyler's won a cup?
He won it in his rookie year. So 2010, 2011. Interesting. He was a healthy scratch in the first two rounds of the NHL playoffs. Patrice Bergeron went down with a concussion. He was inserted into the lineup and did well and stayed.
So what does that make that, 12 years?
Well, yeah, you would count 2010, so 2010 would be 13 years.
Okay, so he's in almost the exact same spot as I was. Mm-hmm. And again, I can remember doing an interview as soon as it was over with, and they said, it was like, never thought I'd be here again. When the like I said, the road gets longer and longer and you're a long way from it, and you don't. And so, and like I said, I knew that other players knew about it. And so there's a little there's a ton of motivation regardless, but Tyler's a big part of that group. And I'm not talking on the ice. I'm talking about off the ice. And I think everybody's a big part of this group. That's where there's a lot of similarities. I think, and I don't know because obviously not in there, but I think, I think this is a tight group. I think this is a group that, to use an old cliche, are all pulling on the rope together. And I think they have talked about it. I think they've talked about the belief. There's not a team here we can't beat. And so anyway, just all of those things that you put into that lineup that Jim Nill has built over since he's, come to this point, the pieces to be able to see. And again, where does that come from? It comes from being in the Detroit Red Wing organization for a long time. And, with the Yzermans, and, they had one of the best defensemen ever to play the game. So there's a lot of similarities here. And there's the right mix of youth and veteran guys.
Yeah.
And you can see, honestly, a lot of times you're going to say that the vets are they're dragging these young guys into the fight. I don't know. Might be the other way around. The young guys are dragging the vets along.
Yeah, absolutely. So Craig's a big game show guy. So I thought today we would play Ask Craig Ludwig, where you guys ask the questions on Twitter. Craig has to answer. All right. At Cuz Rudy, with playoffs around the corner, do players know crunch time is coming and just stay the course, or do they have certain habits they only implement during the playoffs? That's a really good question, Rudy. I know the beard's one.
Whatever you don't change anything.
The beard.
You change nothing.
The beard.
But that being said, let's speak about Tyler. And is there anybody else on this roster that's won a cup? I don't know. Is Tyler? I'm going to try to. I don't think there's anybody else on this roster, is there, that's won a cup?
There is. Did Craig? No, I was thinking Craig Smith.
No, I don't think he has.
Did.
Havs has gotten close. I don't think there's anybody else on here.
Yeah, including the coaching staff.
Right. So The only guy that may, because he's done it, and there may be something that Tyler, goes back and says, here, man, I didn't get in the, like you said, I didn't get in the lineup. I got in the lineup, and here's what I was doing, and we won a cup that year. There are things, guys would go, but otherwise, no. You with the year that they're having, now there may be some things that playoff wise that they don't want to do, just because of past, things that happen in the playoffs. But again, I'm a believer, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Aunt Rudy, I'll answer that as well. Players, they start by not shaving, and if they go on a run, they don't shave. Right? Playoff beard.
The shaving thing, I think, is just goes back to when God was a cowboy. So I mean, that's been going on for a long time.
Okay.
I don't foresee Nils Lundqvist letting his beard go, though.
Yeah. That's like a Gavin Spittle beard. Jesus. Fuzzy says, what's the history like for having multiple 20-plus and 30-plus goal-scoring teams and their chances of making the Cup? Interesting, Fuzzy. I'll have to go back and look at the Cup teams and see. But Jamie Benn did it, making the 8th player. That is absolutely amazing, Craig, that the top 3 lines -1 have all scored 20-plus.
Yeah, it's you talk about balance. You can go through some teams and, just mention McKinnon in Colorado, mention Pasternak in Boston, Reinhart in Florida. If one of those guys go down, is there oh no? If one of these guys go down, I don't see an oh no.
Yeah.
Because it's just depth. I mean, I don't know. And there's not a 50-goal scorer here, right? And so McDavid goes down. Done. Right?
Yeah.
So they're done.
Yeah. They have so amazing depth.
Even in Vegas, if Marchessault, who's 33 years old, looking for a contract, blah, 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 he's probably got 40-plus goals already. That's their guy there. If he goes down, we're like, oh shit.
They struggle without Eichel too.
What way would you rather have it? And I think that's been their MO.
Yeah.
This team has that identity, and there's probably, I would venture to say, there's a lot of general managers that are going, boy, would I love to have that lineup.
Yeah.
You don't know, how do you match up against them? That's the biggest thing from a coach's standpoint. Who's the top line? For a while, for the majority of this year, it's been the Duchesne line, right? Okay, yes. And then go back to all of last year and even parts of this year, it's been the Hintz line.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, it's the Johnson line.
Yeah.
So when Wyatt Johnston is doing what he's doing, and we'll see what Stankoven does in the playoffs, because that's a little different too. But the thing is about Stankoven, which is obvious, he's like a dog on a bone.
Yeah.
So he may not be scoring, every other night like everybody expects him to, but he's creating every other night. And then you've got 2 guys, one for sure, that when there's something there, somehow it ends up in the net, right? When Johnson's got the puck, and Jamie's on a bit of a heater now, and so he's feeling, like he's found the fountain of youth somewhere along here. So there's, like I said, there's a lot of confidence and belief in this group.
The other thing too I wanted to point out, Fuzzy, and Craig knows this, is depth also allows shorter shift changes. So they don't have to be on the ice for as much. And if you look at the time on ice, it's pretty well spread out for the Stars, minus, Miro's up there. But even with the acquisition of Tanev, I think that defensively, it's more spread out.
Well, that's because you have depth all the way through the lineup.
Yeah.
It's not about, I don't think it's about shorter shift changes so much. It's more about, we don't care. They can all do the same thing. You know what I mean? And then the biggest thing for a coach, I think for a coach, especially when you're on the road, is, they want to match up. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Who, as an opposing coach, who are you matching up against right now?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's one of the things also you read about is I love reading the opposition because to me, especially specifically after the game, they tell a story because they were just on the ice. And the one thing that I've heard the most is about playing the Dallas Stars. They just keep coming. And I think that's a apt description when you look at the depth. It doesn't matter. They're rolling 4 lines confidently right now.
Well, and you've heard me rant and rave about their defensive play all year long, right? Just in a certain areas and how they play certain things. But again, and they would listen to me. They would hear me and not listen to me because they're going, yeah, okay, that happens. But we have the puck 3/4 of the time, and so we're spending. I mean, again, if you're going to try to win a hockey game, if you're going to try to win a series, and you spend, I don't know, 65% of the time, if possible, in the other team's zone than you do in your zone, you got a pretty good chance. And I think the other reason that allows them to play that way is because when your number one goaltender is your number one goaltender, you'll go, because I went through it with Patrick, went through it with Eddie Belfour. Yep. We may have breakdowns, but he's going to make that save at that time.
Yeah.
So again, I think there's belief through the whole lineup. And the more that Jake gets back to the Jake of, that we know that he can play at, and, everybody's going to point to the Calgary series when he was so good in that. I mean, that guy gets there and at that level again, and I'm saying, that Vegas has got the best top 6 or, the best 6 defensemen, I believe. But we got 4.5, we got 5. We're going to be pretty good because don't forget about that guy back there between the pipes.
Yep. And that's a potential first round matchup as of now. Aaron Thackman, since it sounds like the Central is wrapped up, by the way, 2 wins the Central, or if Colorado loses, 3 wins, if you're talking about controlling your own destiny, clinches the West. And he says, since it sounds like the Central is wrapped up, would you rather try to get home ice advantage through the Western Conference, or would you rather make sure that health is the main thing going in? As you pointed out, Craig, you want it all at home, so win the West, right?
You're not going to do anything to stop this train from rolling along.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit out. Again, it's up to Pete. I'm not sitting out Duchesne. I'm not sitting out Jamie to say, you know what, we want to give them a couple. They're not going to want it. First off, they're going to go and go, no, I'm not sitting out. I'm playing. You can have a conversation with me, but dude, we're all feeling good about ourselves. And like I said, let's go get first overall. That's what I mean. There's still a carrot dangling there.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, my thought is they can do it. And the reason I know that the math and all this other kind of stuff, but when you look at what the Rangers have, because to me that, I don't know, I think Boston's probably in that neighborhood too. I don't even know offhand.
Boston's currently tied with Dallas. So winning, I mean, let's say the Rangers get knocked out. You can then get home ice throughout the Stanley Cup. So, and
the Rangers got a tougher schedule. I mean, they've got 4 games left, and 3 of those games are number one. They got 2 against the Islanders. The Islanders seem to find a way, and they're a stingy team, so they can steal a game from somebody. And the other one is Philly, and with Torts, and they're kind of now they're out of a playoff spot, I think, as of today. But that team is not taking a day off, regardless. So to me, the Rangers want home ice. Dallas wants home ice. And you just take care of your business. I think there's a chance that door may open up because, Dallas has got Buffalo, Seattle, St. Louis, and Winnipeg. So, I look at the strength of schedule and I think that there are a couple teams there that can give the Rangers, a reason to stumble.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Tilt tonight does kind of concern me. I think Buffalo is one of those teams that can show up and play a good game, 5-5 in their last 10. Their winning record away from home, so just don't count out Buffalo. And they always seem to surge late in the season. Jason Rosenbaum asks, how often do parents of NHL players watch the games on TV? Early on in the career, it would make sense that they'd be more attentive, but I'm curious, as a career goes, how much do they watch? So I ask you, Craig, how much did your family watch over the years? Was it a continuous thing? And as your sons came up through hockey, how much did you watch?
I never watched a game. I never watched if we were playing Philly the next night and Philly was playing, a night before we were going to play them.
Yep.
I never watched.
Okay. And did your parents watch all of your games?
Gavin.
Yes.
I'm from Eagle River, Wisconsin, and we had one channel, so, so and the rabbit ears up on top of the roof.
That's a good point.
So I think cable, I think cable and stuff like that just got there about 5-6 years ago. So yeah, I don't know if I don't know how much they watch. They never really said anything about it. I mean, we just kind of, I don't think they even knew I played in the NHL probably.
Well, you're right. Now with cable TV and now the fly-ins from the family and everything, I think tabs are much easier to keep on
but I'll tell you, today, these guys are junkies. I believe that they watch a lot. I think
I agree.
Especially the young guys. I think they grew up that way, and I think they, everything is right there in your hand now, and you can watch on your phone if you want to, and but then again, you get on the plane, and you've got one of the assistant coaches walking up and down and handing you an iPad as soon as you sit down with all of your shifts on it.
Yeah.
And, and then they'll come pick them up. So, they live and breathe this thing. That, like I've said this so many times, they are, they take care of themselves and all that kind of stuff. So they're dialed into their crafts probably more so than guys like me were.
So Dylan Moreland at Dylan_M_10 is a hockey player. And he asked this technical hockey question to Craig. When playing at the NHL level, how often does a player intentionally think about a system, i.e., quote, I'm F3 here, I need to stay high in the zone until someone comes back, versus how much is that just ingrained in a player's mind and they're just reacting? Yep,
the last part. The last thing you want to do is have a guy out there thinking as the game's going on. And so, you practice, and things just become habit. And it takes a while when you get new guys and things like that. That's why it's always nice, when you have that veteran team with players that been there for a couple of years, 2-3 years, been part of the program, because coaches come in with their philosophies and they believe in their philosophies. And so when Pete got in Dallas, he probably said, this is how we're going to play. And everybody get on board. And when I was talking to Kelly Forbes, who was the video guy for a long time there, no longer now, I remember Kelly saying this last year, his last year there is like, man, Pete was like, no, don't worry about it. You don't need to be in here now, at that, in September. No, we're good. We're only going to do 3 different things. He was like, this is awesome. Like he's got 2 or 3 things. And as a player, you're going, okay, this is nice. We're not doing video and we're not dissecting early on in training camps and things like that. So anyway, but it's in you. And I think the last thing we always say to players, man, you got to think when you're out there. You got to think when you're out there. And the game is so fast. Sometimes when you think, okay, am I supposed to be over here right now? It's already gone.
Yeah.
So there's a reason when you don't have the puck and you're moving up the ice, that's one thing. But when you don't have the puck, here's where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. My centerman's up here. I'm going to be in this spot right here because that's where I'm going to be because my defenseman's going to be over here. And so, the 5 guy, you always try to think about it is if you had your 5 guys on the ice and there was a rope tied to each single player. So when F1 moves this way, the winger goes that way. And off that winger, this defenseman goes here. So when that rope is pulled from the very first guy, it's pulling all the other 4 guys to a certain area.
Do you do that when you're coaching? Do you tie them with rope? This is kind of an interesting drill.
And there's a few I'd like to hang that too.
Oh, come on.
Well, every coach is like that.
Yeah, I know.
It's because you see potential and you see things in players and you're like, you just don't get it. I keep telling you over and over again. But again, this isn't a mature hockey mind when you're dealing with 17-year-olds.
Right. Yeah.
It takes it time to get in there, and they have a lot more. There's things that I say, and then I say it, or I'm driving back home, and I'm like, Jesus, what do I even say that for? They're in high school, and they got girls or guys, whatever, and they got the pom-pom girl, and they got football games they're going to, and so there's all these other distractions that the young players have.
Yep. Alan Nans at Alan Nan 49, and thank you one and all for your questions for Luds. And you know what? I was trumpeting Luds the last few days on this one, folks, because he talked about it on our previous episode, and I talked about it after Chicago, and then they ended up staying in Chicago, and then after the victory in Colorado. Luds spoke previously about game day travel into Colorado versus traveling the night before. With the altitude being such a big adjustment for players, does he think the team may use this travel arrangement against the Avalanche in a potential finals matchup? First of all, kudos for that information. That was really, really good insight. And do you think they'd change their travel schedule, or are the playoffs different?
Playoffs are different. Again, they've got people that they've been doing this long enough, and the players have input too. So to me, if I'm coaching a team like that, I'm kind of going to my group and I'm asking, hey, when we come in, because they always say it's like the second day that actually gets you, and that first game you're going to feel it, yeah. But again, I felt it all. I felt it here in Dallas, for God's sakes. I felt like I had a pair of Nike socks stuffed down my throat when I played. So that might had something to do with off ice things. But I think that you kind of lean on history of your group, and they're going to go back and and again, I would say, hey, man, what was wrong with us that game? Was it this or was it that? But I again. The guys that know are the 20 guys that are in the lineup, the 23 guys in the locker room. So involve them on certain decisions. That's what I think you do.
Absolutely. Okay, so thank you, Dylan, for the hockey technical question. And I just wanted to say, never be afraid to ask questions to Spits and Suds, because we're trying to educate listeners and grow this great game in DFW. And James has a question regarding that. I keep hearing you talk about short change and long change. What does it exactly mean, and how does it affect each period? So I think what you mean, we were just talking about short shifts, meaning they get off the ice quicker because of the depth. Short change and long changes as far as the distance to the bench, and it changes during the periods. Craig, how much of a difference is that, a short change and a long?
Yeah, the second period, obviously you're further away from your bench once a game, and so as far as that goes, so you're trying to shorten your shifts up, because the last thing you want is to be able to get out there for a minute and a half, and now I know they got tickers and all this kind of stuff, and you get trapped in your own zone, and so you had an opportunity after, say it's the second period, and you're in your own zone, you've been in your own zone for 20, 30 seconds, you go down to the other end of the rink, and then it comes back down to your zone, and you're there for 15 seconds or so. Now your shift is somewhere around 50, I don't know, close to a minute. Now it's going back up ice again, and you don't change. Well, what happens on the way back, typically, when it's coming back down to your zone, the opposing team will get a change. So they're going to get fresh guys coming onto the ice as they're going back into your zone. Now, all of a sudden, there's fresh guys in your zone. Now, you've been out there for a minute, 10 minute, 20, and you keep getting to a certain spot, and the puck keeps moving by you. And that's where the tickers come in. And that's why all the analysts and the play-by-game, they're going to talk about, well, so-and-so has been out there a minute 47. So-and-so is out there 2 minutes and 10 seconds. That's why. And bad things usually happen when you're tired, can't get off the ice. And as you know, it used to be where you can take the puck and fire it out of the rink, fire it out, get the stoppage. Well, now there's a 2-minute penalty. Well, then the other problem is you get it on your stick and you ice it. Well, shit, I can't change. So now I'm still out there. Opposing team come down, they line up right away. Let's go. So those are the reasons that you shorten your I tell our guys all the time, second period, come off before you're tired. Don't get hung out there tired, because that's usually the period where, things can change and better quality scoring chances and things like that.
So here's a question for you that I thought of that some have asked me. Stick breaks, you're in your own zone, let's just say you're a defenseman, therefore the forward gives you the stick. But let's say the forward breaks his stick. A lot of people
I know where you're going.
Okay, and the question is there a right answer on this? Should the player, if they can, get back to the bench, grab another stick, or be replaced? Or what is the advantage? I mean, they can block shots and everything, but people wonder, is there truly an advantage if you don't have a stick staying on there as opposed to racing to the bench and having someone replace you?
Yeah, and nobody's going to replace you because again, the second period, you're going to just get up and well, not always going to replace you, but somebody, one of the trainers is leaning on the boards. He's trying to get the stick as close as you can, so you don't have as far to go. I think it's just a different philosophy. For me, I'm like, stay in a lane, shoot, let's try to get things to perimeter because you play against a good team. They've got control of the puck. Now I'm basically leaving my zone. And, and again, you take a top team that's got control of the puck. So, and I think there's different times. I think that let's say it's the second period, but again, if it's the second period, you know how far you have to go get a stick or for another guy to change. If it's the first or second period, little different. You're forward and for instance, you're the right winger. So you're closest to your bench. The puck gets bobbled in a corner there. There's already guys leaning over the boards trying to hand you a stick. Maybe you only have to take, 3-4 strides. You get back into the play and you've got your stick. So I just think from a player standpoint, I have to kind of judge where's the puck, where's it at. Because if I hang in here, I'm not going to be able to get there, get back and get into the middle of the ice. So if I can hang in the middle of the ice, force them to go down the wall a little bit more, stay in a shooting lane. Now I've watched other ones. I'm going, what the hell are they doing? But it's worked out for them. So I think it's a philosophy maybe as a team.
Next three questions we've kind of hit on already in this podcast, but we'll read your questions. At JT Manazzi, best win of the season, certainly among the tops. Is there anything else that both of you would need to see the Stars do before the playoffs start? Only thing I can think of is seeing the Hintz line play better 5-on-5. I think that's a fair statement, but I think Craig put it best. Just keep doing it, keep playing, because if they start resting players, I mean, we see it in the NFL, and Craig can probably attest to this, is players don't want to rest in the NHL. They just want to, especially when you have momentum, you want to keep it going.
I think what you can do, you're going to keep the players playing, but you can manage certain players' minutes.
Yeah.
Whether it's Pavelski, Duchesne, Jamie Benn, maybe Jamie doesn't go out and take as many faceoffs. Maybe you're not on the power play as much. And I'm talking about the opponent. You're going to probably win the hockey game. And maybe the last, 6-7 minutes, you can find little areas to get guys a little bit more rest. Maybe if there's guys that play on the power play and the penalty kill, maybe they don't kill that night. Right. And again, I think that the player don't like it. The player's going to tell you, I'm fine. And I think in today's game they are. I mean, they're so well conditioned, and so
yeah. If you clinch, let's say the West, and you clinch the Central, and you can't change, like it's clinched as far as the Rangers and the Boston, so that that can't be changed. Then I think maybe in the last game you might see a Wedgwood, you might see a Maverick Bourque called up. You can only call so many players up, so it's interesting salary cap wise. If we'd have to look at the salary cap flexibility for that game, as you know, the Stars do it game by game with the call ups and the send downs. And so Ronald asks, at Ronald Donald Nald, what's your thoughts on Segi's load management? Should Dallas sit him out until game one of the postseason? I thought he actually was firing really well on Sunday night.
No, you play. Like I said, Tyler's finally healthy. I would think Tyler's feeling. But now, again, if he's got a couple bumps and bruises and there's something that, taking a game off would help him, and, the standings are what the standings are going to be, I understand that. But I think Tyler's would be defiant. I'm going. Why would I want to take a game off? I'm feeling good, physically, mentally. I'm where I want to be. And I think you're going to get that from every player. There's no player that really wants to take a game off. They never do. But again, I can see like a Joe Pavelski, a Tyler, a Jamie. And again, I think Pete would go up to him and say, listen, where are you at on this? We're just thinking, because again, what can always happen? And there'll be these people out there that you guys aren't going to get first overall, for instance. And then you're thinking, okay, we're going to take the 3 guys and we're going to give them a rest. Well, the guys say no, they want to play. And then they get banged up in that, game 81, game 82, they get banged up and they can't start the playoffs. But don't think that the players don't know that. They want to play. and it's not going to be the people that say you should have never played him. You should have made sure. You know what? That could happen at any time. That could happen in game one, and you miss them then too.
At What the Blickens says, do you think Suter will be as generally successful with Hakanpää as his D partner as he's been with Lundqvist?
I personally, I think just what I said earlier.
Yep.
I think if they can get a big body, a so-called veteran, in the lineup, I think that they'll go with Hakanpää. That's nothing against Nils, and I think you want to go all the way through this. You're not going to have your same 6 defensemen in the lineup the whole time.
Yes.
You generally want to have, you'd love to have 10 defensemen there, because when guys go down and it's a blessing if everybody stays healthy. And typically the teams that do stay healthy, you'll see them playing, in the finals.
Yep.
So, if wherever Essa is right now, it sounds like he's going to be fine. Hopefully that doesn't linger. Everybody's got bumps and bruises right now at this time of the year anyways. But I mean, if you can, and maybe where they're looking with Essa, I mean, do you want to give him a game or two off? Do you want to, do you think we can survive? And that'll be a conversation too. Like, is first overall important enough to this group to have Essa playing at 85%? Or do we give him 2 games off? And let's get Essa where we need Essa to be as that shutdown guy going into game 1 against whoever it's going to be. I mean, that just all kind of depends on how banged up a player is.
Yeah. Yeah. Great point. Finally, at Cowboy Jeff Sucks, some serious questions for Craig. Did Craig attend the Metallica Pantera show at AT&T Stadium last summer?
I did not. I was in Wisconsin. Okay. But remember, I went to Mexico City with Metallica and Pantera.
Yes.
So
I'm
still
lived it, right?
I'm still hungover. And that was during the playoffs.
Okay. Yeah. No, I remember that story. And nowadays, goodness gracious, what you would face the wrath of social media.
Oh boy.
Yeah. All right.
I'd have been in jail. Yeah. I wouldn't even be back yet.
Favorite heavy metal guitarist, band, and song?
Dime. Okay. I mean, how can it not be Dime?
All right.
Or Eddie, Van Halen. Yep. Unfortunately, neither one of them are here.
Yep. Song?
When you talk about, are you asking me about my favorite song or the guitarist in that song?
He says, no, favorite heavy metal guitarist. So you've answered that. Band, which I think is Pantera, and song. So
I can go to any Metallica songs.
Okay.
All right. You can pick. For Pantera, it's kind of been Planet Caravan.
Got it.
And I remember asking Vinny, like, I love this song. It's kind of a slower thing. And anyway, I asked Vinny about it. He goes, no, dude, we don't care about radio. I'm like, dude, this should be on the radio. No, we don't care about radio. So no, I probably have to say, if I have to pick one, it'd be Nothing Else Matters. Okay. Metallica. I mean, that was our, when I was kind of doing the music and stuff like that during, that cup run thing. And that was a song that got played a lot in the locker room on the way through. And so, in fact, I don't know if they played that in warm-ups or something like that, but anyway, that's why that song kind of sticks out.
Best concert.
Nothing else mattered at the time.
Best concert you've ever seen.
Ooh, best concert I've ever seen. It might be Keith Urban.
Okay. Good answer.
Yeah.
Worst concert you ever saw.
I gotta say it could have been the Keith Urban concert. So
what about the worst?
Oh, every night on the deck out here. It's terrible.
I was a big Cars fan, and I saw him at the old Boston Garden. And I mean, the music was great, but they just stood in front of the microphone. They didn't even talk. It was so interesting. But they were known for that.
I'm gonna take this back a little bit because you had to give me a second to think. The best entertaining concert, not necessarily the music all the time, was Michael Jackson.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and that was in Montreal, and we were right there on the floor and right in the front row. And now that I think about that, I just remember being in awe, not the music so much, but how the dude moved. Right.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
So I not that now that's just, that sticks out in my mind from that. But again, when I was in Mexico City and in that place, I thought it was coming down with Metallica, and especially when Pantera opened up for them. But like I said, I can pick a lot of them, but for sentimental reasons, Metallica, Pantera, probably.
Okay. A band that you wish you saw live but never did.
And you realize, as I'm saying that, I'm looking at my stuffed bear over here on this little thing that walks out to the deck, and it's got a Stars jersey on it. It's got a black top hat. It's got Dime's guitar that he gave me, and Vinny's lanyard is hanging there, and his symbol is right at the bear's feet.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that's kind of.
Yeah.
I'll send you a picture. You can put that on your little website.
On my little website. Okay.
What were you going to say now?
Is there a band that you wish you saw live but never did?
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Okay. That's a good one. I really enjoyed Supertramp, and they broke up.
Jesus, you are dating yourself.
I really am. I'm old school, man. I'm old school.
Yeah.
Did he send the Stanley Cup? Let's see. It says, did he send the Stanley Cup from headbanging? Or it's probably, did you stop the Stanley Cup from headbanging?
Did it say, did I dent?
Did he? Oh, yeah. He put sent instead of dent. That's a good one, Craig. Did you dent the Stanley Cup from headbanging?
No, that was actually at Vinny's house. And I was on the playground part of the house on the deck, and it didn't quite get into the pool. Kind of went over the edge a little bit.
Yeah.
And it ended up down on the bottom of the pool by the Crown label.
Yes.
The logo on the bottom of the pool.
Yeah, Lukovic was a guy. He said he had to help get it up from the deep end.
You do know his name is spelled with a W, not a V.
All right.
Yeah. I just thought I'd correct you. Luke wouldn't like that. Luke, I'm gonna say,
no. Hey,
Brad, Luke, here, I was doing a podcast with this Gavin Spittle dude. Did you change your name somewhere? Like, what do you mean? I'm gonna say, because he keeps calling you Lukovic. So maybe haven't you had Luke on your podcast?
I have. He loved it. Yeah.
Were you calling him Lukovic then too?
Well, it was just an error just now, Craig. And you know what? I'm trying to build a reputation with the players in the NHL. It would be nice if you just said, I understand that's not helping, but it would be nice if you said, hey, you know what? This guy Gavin's cool. I might send him stuff every once in a while, razz him, but he's a good dude. You know what? This is a good podcast to come on.
Yes, I agree.
Did Craig ever play heavy metal in the locker room and convert teammates into headbangers? Good question.
They love Pantera. So the guys love Pantera. I mean, Vinny, I could tell you how many times Vinny got tickets for all these guys. And Luke is a headbanger too. Luke is into heavy metal. Brad Lukovic, that guy. Lukovic is into it too. No, I don't. Thinking back, I don't know if heavy metal in our locker room was the thing with that group. I thought that Metallica, Pantera for sure, and Phil, lead singer at the time, Phil's a screamer. Everybody knows that. So even me, I was like, what the fuck is this? So I think it seems like Metallica might have been as heavy as, and there might be somebody else that I'm forgetting about, but okay. It was not, the big heavy metal, yelling, screaming kind of guys.
That was an awesome edition of Ask Craig Ludwig. Great questions, both technical and non-technical. And now we have to send Craig away so he can watch some game shows for the day and stimulate his mind, because clearly
Deal or No Deal started already.
Exactly. So, yes.
I need to go find a car.
Yes, go find a car. And we shall chat soon, and I'm excited because we're going to hang out in a couple of weeks. I'm going to take you to a Rangers game.
Oh, yeah. Can we just get more than 3 Miller Lights? Because I do know that there are still 9 innings in a baseball, and I know the pitch count and everything's all revved up and a little quicker.
Don't worry.
But I'd like to make it past the top of the first inning.
I got you. All
right.
He's Craig Ludwig. He's a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, a 2-time NCAA champion. By the way, Spit and Chicklets did an awesome video of the facilities at University of North Dakota. So I'd encourage you to watch that, because in the background is Craig Ludwig pictures, and several times I saw your name. So the fact that you're not in the Hall of Fame still bugs me.
That's the gym Luds built. They were tired of them old Universal machines in there that we used to lift up and down like they were nothing. So they had to go big. It is unbelievable. Well, you saw it. It was unbelievable. Now that you mention that, I was wondering why I was getting text messages with pictures from North Dakota.
Yeah.
I never asked the question, but apparently it was during, as you said, some kind of TV show or something like
that.
Yes,
Spit and Chicklets. They did a really cool special this year where their producer goes around to the various facilities. He went to Arizona State, Boston College, Boston University, North Dakota, Penn State, and he hangs with the boys and they show him the facility. He goes to the game that night. He really highlights how cool college hockey is.
Yeah.
So
great.
It's good. Yeah. All right. Go to your game show. Thank you so much, sir. Really appreciate it. I know our listeners appreciate you, and I will talk to you soon.
All right. It's been a slice.
No more texts of the boys, please.
With the boys?
Yeah, I don't know what that means. All right. That's going to do it for another edition of Spits and Suds. I'm Gavin Spittle of 105.3 The Fan. We will be back on after Buffalo tonight with a postgame, and then we'll be with you once again this week, more and more as we gear up for the playoffs right here on Spits and Suds.